let's jump into some MLB.
What?
All right, and so the biggest free agent domino of the hot stove season has just fallen, and that is Max Scherzer. The Detroit Tigers AL 2013 Cy Young Award winner, one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball the past 3 years, has landed with the Washington Nationals. Now, they have locked him up for a 7-year. I've heard different reports about the number of money, but I believe the final report was $210 million for 7 years. And what they're actually going to do is they're structuring it very interestingly. He's going to get about $15 million a year pretty consistently throughout that contract. I think it gets to be a bigger number the farther down the road he gets, which I can't imagine he'll be pitching for the Nationals when he's 37. But I thought this was a very interesting move. What type of impact do you guys think this will have on the Nationals starting rotation that was already so good?
I think it's going to have a huge impact. Obviously, just like everybody's talking, it's going to definitely skyrocket the Nationals up to the top and definitely can favorites two for the World Series. Now, obviously, it's easy to say it and it looks great on paper, but even with the big signing, he's going to have to perform.
Yeah,
and
sure.
even with any athletes, you can pay him all the sums of money you want, and he might perform well other places, but change of scenery, we got to see how he adapts.
Okay. Yeah, and I thought Brendan was about to pipe in with something, but he'll save that for later. But yeah, I mean, you bring one of the best pitchers, like I said, one of the top 3 pitchers in all of baseball into a starting rotation that already last year had the average for lowest ERA. So really the best starting rotation in all of baseball. You bring one of the best starting pitchers into that lineup. I mean, it's pretty much, it seems like they're going to be all or nothing for the 2015 World Series, because they were planning on shopping around Jordan Zimmerman. Doesn't seem like they've had any takers, at least not for what they wanted to get back. So it seems like he's going to stay put this year. You also have Steven Strasburg in that lineup, Gio Gonzalez, and Doug Fister, who's arguably their best pitcher last year, Doug Fister was. I mean, you had a 3.08 average for an ERA for this squad, and last year Max Scherzer had a 3.15 ERA. Now, he was in the AL last year. Moving him over to the NL, that makes him have like a 2.4 or less, because there's no designated hitter to combat him. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And then you also have a 15-game winner in Tanner Roark kind of falling back into the bullpen. And when they traded Tyler Clippard, a lot of people are like, what are you doing? He's a great setup man. I don't know. I'm thinking that Tanner Roark's going to step into that spot. What do you think?
Personally, I think that's what they're hoping for, and definitely they are trying to do a big push for this year specifically, and I don't see why not. They did really well last year. Like, they were dominating for quite some time. They didn't make it as far into the playoffs as some of us would have expected.
Yeah, they didn't make it past the first round.
Yeah, exactly. But for how dominating they were doing before that, we kind of expected them to have serious contention for the World Series, but obviously they were lacking a few pieces to pull that out in the end. But with how dominating they did during the regular season, it still seems like this is a good time to make that big push, to make a couple of risky moves, to switch around some players in a couple of risky ways, but in a way that's could pay off with something really big, with getting to that World Series run.
And I wouldn't be too surprised after them making this move to go and get that bona fide ace. You might see Steven Strasburg gets shipped out. He hasn't played quite like they thought he would. It really hasn't panned out. He's not done bad. I'm not saying he's done bad. I mean, he had 3.14 ERA last year. That's not shabby at all. But the wins haven't quite been there. He's kind of had a little bit of a sulky attitude. If he's not considered the number one guy, which if you ask me, Doug Fister or Jordan Zimmerman last year were the number one guys. Kind of seems like he's a little pouty. He's also mentioned a few things about wanting to go back to San Diego. So you never know. And the Nationals still really need some hitters. They did make a trade for a second baseman, but I don't think he was 32 and he's like a 270 career hitter. So it's not really the cure-all that they were looking for. So there's still plenty of moves to be made there with this Nationals franchise. It's just going to be interesting to see which ones they decide to make. Now they have a plethora of starting pitchers, because like I said, you could trade away Strasburg, you could trade away Zimmerman, and still have a Tanner Roark step back up into that starting rotation and be none worse for wear. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I don't know. We'll have to play the games. That's why they play the games, right? Isn't that the expression? It's why you play the games. All right, well, we'll see what happens in the 2015 season. Hit us up. Let us know what you think. Are the Nationals going to keep this bullpen of pitchers, or are they going to get rid of one of these guys? And is this World Series or bust for them? Hit us up. Comments down below. Of course, at Where's My Face on Twitter, Google Plus, and Facebook. Always good ways of getting a hold of us.